Hello everybody, it's Mr. Tall 23 back to their video. I'm gonna do a quick check on the sound. Alright, it's working. So, as you can tell by the title of this video, I just want to do a quick update. I know I said in the video I made a couple days ago that I wouldn't really be talking about this, and it's not really so much talking about the epidemic itself, but the reaction to it and update on things that are going on in relation to this. So, first of all, I've been informed that in Arizona, the extension has been added on to how long we stay away from school. So originally it was until March 27th. Now they're extending it by 2 weeks until April 10th. So I won't go back to school until at least, I guess that would be April 12th because April 10th is or I guess April 13th because April 10th is a Friday. So it's going to be at least 3 more weeks before I go back to school, which means I have plenty of time to make videos on this channel and to do a lot more work for this channel and things like that. Usually during the week, because I go to school for 8 hours a day and then I'm tired when I get home, I usually sleep for about an hour and a half. Then after that, I do a little bit of homework. I eat dinner and things like that. I only have about 3 or 4 hours at most of free time, and I usually use that time to read my Bible and things like that. So don't really have much free time during the weekdays. Thankfully, we have this. Well, there's an upside and a downside to this. The good part about it is that I have these extra 3 weeks to work on these videos, also to work on other things. Like I'm still writing that book, which I mentioned a couple months ago, Why I Left the Hebrew Roots Movement. That book, I am currently about 160 pages, I think, into writing it. I would say I'm about 2/3 of the way done. I originally planned on having it done by the end of June and have it published in July. I might even get it done by the end of May and have it published in early June, uh, according to how it's going now. I work on it about an hour a day, sometimes a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less. But on average, I work on it about an hour a day. And for the next 3 weeks, I plan to continue on working on this book, and I think I'll get probably about 90% done with it. Then I'll finish it in the last few weeks leading up to the end of this school year, and then I'll start to edit the book, just revise it, uh, find any mistakes, things like that, make it sound better, organize it a little bit better, things like that. So I'll just revise it, edit it, and then I'll publish it probably sometime in June. So there's that. But one thing I could say about why I don't like this is that there's a lot of people who I know, not particularly friends, but more like acquaintances, people who I've known for years, uh, who I don't really have any contact with outside of school. And it's kind of a myth. You kind of hear these people out there claim that, kids these days, they're all on their phones and social media and things like that. But I've come to learn over the last few years that that's not really true. There's a lot of people out there, a lot of people I know who have zero addiction to, or even any kind of attachment to any social media. There's people out there who don't have any account. There's people out there who might have one or two, but who don't really use it or anything like that. So you can't really contact them or find them outside of school. And I don't really have like phone numbers or anything like that, emails. Don't really have much except for like my closest friends. So there's a lot of people who I know who I've been working on and preaching the gospel to, and plan on preaching the gospel to. People who are acquaintances who are already saved, but who don't go to my church, who go to some other church or whatever, who I don't really see outside of school or don't really talk to. So I won't really get a chance to really see them again if this continues on. I don't know exactly how this is going to go, but just based on how it is right now, they've extended it for 2 weeks, so it's not just March 27th. Now it ends at April 10th. I have a feeling like they might even extend it longer. So there's a chance that I'm done with my high school career and I'm just, never going to go back to school again. But if that's the case, there's a couple things which I might think about or which I've been thinking about because the requirement for graduation at my high school is that we have 40 hours of community service. Now I've gotten all these hours done, but we need to fill out a form and get it signed and turned in. Only have 27 hours turned in. And it's a requirement of the school for graduation. If you don't get your 40 hours in, then you don't graduate. Since I don't have my 40 hours in, if it comes to the scenario where they continue to extend it to a point where we never go back to school, then there might even be a chance that I'll get held back and become a super senior or whatever because I don't have all my hours in. And that's not just the case for me, that's the case for a lot of people. But maybe they might make an exception because of this outbreak or epidemic or whatever. Some people might actually, or the people at the school might actually allow us to continue on even without these hours turned in. I'm not sure how it'll go down, but I just have a feeling like seeing how stupid the public school system is, they might just continue to hold us back because of that. So I don't know how that's going to go. I'm not particularly worried about that, but it just seems like kind of a really big overreaction. Uh, Man, I have not I didn't have any preparation for this video, so I'm kind of just trying to think of things to ramble off and rant about right here. Uh, I'm thinking about actually starting to do updates for this channel on my second channel, Mr. Tall 1611, which I've talked about and not many people have went on to. There's only 11 subscribers compared to the 480 on here, so I guess many people didn't see the video that I uploaded about that channel about a month and a half ago. So I have a secondary channel, Mr. Tall 1611. If you haven't subscribed, I suggest looking that up. It's also in my recommended list on the side of my homepage for the channel. I'm thinking about just posting update videos there once that channel grows a little bit, because I don't want to, you know, put all the updates for this channel on that channel when there's only a dozen or so subscribers, and then most of them on there, or most of the people on this channel who might watch my videos don't know about what's going on or my plans for this channel. So, I definitely have a lot of time to get videos done. I've been working on writing scripts and researching for my videos in the last couple weeks. Uh, we were originally on spring break, so we left school on March 6th, and that was already planned from the beginning of the year because we have a 2-week break during the spring. So it should have ended by now, but we have an additional 3 weeks. So this is the longest break besides that little, summer section that we usually have in between school years that has ever happened. The closest thing to that was a couple years ago when this movement called the Red for Ed movement, which is some kind of thing where teachers are protesting because they didn't get paid enough and they wanted schools to have more funding. So they, instead of, going on their job, doing their job, they just went on strike, stood around with signs and just protested and failed completely. Nobody cared. Nobody listened to them. They still haven't received a pay raise or anything like that. It was just a waste of time, really. And we didn't have school for a week and a half. I liked it back then. But, sometimes it's just kind of annoying because it's like, what's the point of this? As I said before in the video I made a couple days ago, it's very unlikely that any teens would get affected by this. Teens can definitely, anybody can get the disease, but not many will die from the disease. The majority of the people who die from it are infants and elderly people. People in our age, people who go to high school who are between the ages of 14 and 18, the likelihood of them dying is like 0.2%. It's very low. It's lower than the flu. And there's more people who've been infected with the flu, more people who have died from the flu in the last 2 months than people who have been infected and died from coronavirus. And yet people are making this big deal out of coronavirus. They're canceling businesses. If you want to go to a restaurant, you can't sit down and eat anywhere. Things like that. They're canceling businesses. Grocery stores are running out of food and toilet paper and all kinds of other things. Schools being canceled. People are advised to quarantine themselves in their house, even if they don't have the disease. It's just ridiculous, in my opinion. So that's it for this video. I don't really have much else to talk about. It's just kind of, just I have a lot of time on my hands to get stuff done, to continue studying the Bible without anything getting in the way of that. and I'm probably gonna stay home the majority of the time of this break, besides going to church. Uh, and that's another thing I should mention. I'm not gonna stop going to church because of this. Uh, there's a lot of churches that are closing temporarily because of the coronavirus. They're of course disobeying what God says in Hebrews 10:25. It says, "Forsake not yourself." Wait, forsake. Man, I wish I could just quote that verse in memory. That's an important verse. It says in Hebrews 10:25, not forsaking the assembling of ourselves together as the manner of some is, but exhorting one another, and so much the more as you see the day approaching. So we shouldn't forsake the assembling of ourselves together, which is, of course, church, when we congregate together in a body of believers. Uh, it shows that a lot of people, a lot of Christians out there don't just trust God. You know, they're afraid of this as if it's a big deal anyway. Uh, I mean, it would make more sense, at least, if it was like an extremely deadly, dangerous disease, but it's not really that bad, and people are refusing the commandment of the Bible to go to church uh, because of this scare, or because of what the government says, because the government recommends it. So they say, well, we just listen to what either the federal government or the state government recommends, and this is what they want us to do. But the Bible says we ought to obey God rather than men. So how about we listen to what the Bible says instead of listening to what man's suggestion is, and we just focus on God, and we try to trust in God, and we don't get afraid of something like a disease. Diseases have always been around. There's always been diseases. You always get the chance of getting diseases when you go to church. I mean, even just a couple months ago, there was kind of like a flu outbreak where there was a whole bunch of people in my church who had, well, I wouldn't say a whole bunch of people, but at least 5 or 6 people in my church who had the flu, and from that they got a sinus infection. I was one of them. It was not like, none of us died. None of us had, it wasn't that bad. We could still go to church. It was not deadly or anything like that. People get sick all the time. You know, I don't care if I get sick, I still go to church. That's what we should all do. Unless it's something where you physically can't get out of bed, something like that. Or if it's like extremely contagious and deadly, those are exceptions. But when it comes to just like you're afraid that you might get it, but there's no proof that people in your church have it, and even if they did, if they had the disease, if they've been tested positive, they should just stay home and quarantine themselves instead of going there and frightening everybody else to not go there. It's just chaos. So that's it for this video. I don't really have much else to say. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and goodbye. God bless you.